Good morning, everybody. It's Brian Neubert again from goldenblack.com. It is Friday, May 29th. It is definitely Friday morning, totally not Thursday evening. Never mind the fact the sun is going down behind me, and I'm wearing the same shirt as I was on Thursday morning. It is totally Friday morning, and this is your goldenblack.com Daily Quarantine Simulcast. It is brought to you by Falls Purdue Bookstores, Purdue Federal Credit Union, the 6th Street Dive Restaurant, First Source Bank, East End Grill, and the Charters Team Remaxability Plus. I want to remind you once again, as our restaurant friends hopefully start phasing out of this very difficult time in our history, please keep in mind the 6th Street Dive in Lafayette, East End Grill in downtown Lafayette, Arnie's in Lafayette, West Lafayette, and all over the state, Bruno's on the Levee, the Whitaker Inn in West Lafayette, and Triple X on the Hill. If you're accessing this video on YouTube, sooner or later we're going to start having a flow of, I hate the word content, but content coming through our YouTube channel that won't involve you looking at me all day. So please hit that subscribe button if you see it. If you'd be so kind, we would appreciate it. Today's topic. I talked about the quarterback play a while back, about the importance of quarterback play at Purdue, but we had a suggestion just asking me to talk about the competition between the quarterbacks who will be vying for the job at Purdue. And it is interesting, almost unprecedented. You know, Purdue has had its share over the years of quarterback chaos, quarterback comings and goings, all kinds of circumstances. I don't want to say quarterback controversies because that's kind of a loaded term. There have been a couple of those too, but quarterbacks getting hurt, quarterbacks circumstance taking them out, wide open jobs, quarterbacks coming and going. It's ever since probably Joe Tiller's last season at Purdue, if not before, the year Curtis Painter and Joey Elliott both got hurt as well, and Justin Siller had to move to running back. Or from running back to quarterback, chaos, utter chaos. And but through it all, you know, Danny Hope never really had a chance to have the quarterback he wanted start a season, finish a season, and I think that held Purdue's program back a little bit under him. Darrell Hazel's era at Purdue was obviously a very forgettable one, but also largely had to do with the fact that Purdue could never get its quarterback situation figured out. A lot went into that. That was obviously, the coaching staff was a large part of that as well. Jeff Brom in his time at Purdue has seen, you know, quarterbacks get hurt left and right. David Blau gets hurt. Elijah Sindelar's been hurt a couple of times. Jack Plummer gets hurt last year. It's just been a lot of coming and going for Purdue for the better part of a decade plus. And but I don't know, through it all, I don't know how often Purdue has legitimately had three players credibly competing for the starting job, which could reasonably be the situation Purdue's in here, you know, in a couple of weeks when, you know, activity resumes in whatever form it resumes. You know, I will qualify everything we ever say about Austin Burton at this point in time, the graduate transfer from UCLA, with the fact that he's graduating from UCLA in July, presumably then showing up at Purdue in August. He's a quarterback. He'll be showing up in August, and the season is supposed to start in September. Now, there's conceivably some things Purdue maybe can push his way in the meantime to maybe get him going a little bit in terms of his processing of the offense, but it would be a superhero act if he is able to learn enough about Purdue's offense in that short a period of time to be able to apply it in a starting capacity for Purdue at quarterback. That would be a hell of a feat on his part. So how much he can really factor into this, I think that remains to be seen. Whether or not, you know, Purdue would sort of boil things down for him, I have no idea. He would have to be demonstrably better than the other guys for Purdue to want to, you know, cut pages out of its playbook simply to get him on the field, I would think. But I don't know. But he stands to be another entry into this competition for this starting job. And there was already quite a competition for that starting job because Purdue brings back two players from last season who both played earlier than they, you know, would have been preferred, gained some experience, presumably will improve because of that experience, and both of which did some very positive things. I'm talking, of course, about Jack Plummer and Aiden O'Connell. We'll start with O'Connell. Obviously, he took over under very difficult circumstances, as did Jack Plummer before him. really, really helped Purdue, I thought, make something of last season. Purdue had every reason in the world to just kind of not have anything to show for last season. The circumstances, the injuries and whatnot really, really made things difficult. The biggest reason Purdue was 4-8 last season, but Aiden O'Connell engineers those wins against Nebraska and Northwestern, and had Purdue just beaten Indiana like it had every opportunity to do there at the end, you walk away from that season taking note of the circumstances, probably saying, hey, that season's not even a disappointment. Everything that happened to them, for them to win 5 games and win the bucket back, that's a pretty good deal. That obviously didn't happen because of the Indiana outcome, but Aiden O'Connell put Purdue in that position to, almost win 5 games in under circumstances where you had every reason to win like 3. So he did some really positive things. I think he proved he's a gamer. He's a guy you can win with. I think his arm is good enough. His size is certainly good enough. I think from an athletic perspective, Purdue would like a higher end athlete back there. I think that's really something they put a high premium on at quarterback. The ability to make plays outside the system, make plays with one's feet, whether that's design runs, whether that's improvisational stuff, is irrelevant. Purdue would like a more mobile, more athletic guy back there. Ideally, you don't always get your perfect fit all the time, but that would be the one thing with Aiden O'Connell where you look at him and you say, he showed you can win with him, but this is the one thing where that might be a box that's not checked. Jack Plummer, obviously coming back off the ankle injury, I think he did some really positive things in his time on the field too before getting hurt. You go back and look at the Maryland game, he was great. Purdue's offense that day was great. If that's a glimpse of what he's capable of, you could be really onto something here. Assuming he improves with experience, he improves with time. He's healthy, obviously. He took over under very difficult circumstances, obviously. Elijah Sindelar goes out with a concussion at the last play of the game, I think, against Vanderbilt. I think Purdue probably figured Sindelar was going to play against TCU. TCU is a really good defensive program, a really good defensive coach in Gary Patterson. That's what Jack Plummer kind of walked into, that kind of situation. What was it, like his 3rd or 4th game of his career? Really his first time playing, and it's against TCU. TCU did a great job really quieting Rondell Moore, and just a really difficult situation to be in for Jack Plummer in his first start. But I do think the Maryland game on down the line, I think he did some pretty positive things in his time on the field. Certainly not perfect. You didn't expect perfection, but I think he did some very positive things. Jeff Brom expressed some frustrations with him in terms of his delivery of the ball, him wanting him to get a little bit more on the ball at times. That's something I'm sure they'll work with him on. Athletically, I think he's good enough. You have to obviously make sure he comes back from the ankle injury well. But I do think he's a good enough athlete back there to do what they'd ideally like to do with their quarterbacks. So he's certainly a guy where you can look at him and say, hey, this guy still could really be a really good player at Purdue. So you've got that. You've got Aiden O'Connell, who's shown you can win with, and Austin Burton, who's a complete wild card. It might come down to kind of, who has the best grasp of the offense, who seems to be the most confident, the most comfortable, whatever it may be. Skill set wise, they recruited Austin Burton for a reason. I think that Purdue, would really like to go in a more dual threat kind of direction. Whether or not you can do that with this existing personnel kind of remains to be seen. But as I said, I think Jack Plummer is a good enough athlete. I think Austin Burton was recruited obviously for a reason. I do think Purdue would like to incorporate the quarterback in its running game a little bit more beyond the improvisational stuff. I do think they would like to have some more designed run element from the quarterback position. Whether or not they can do that right away kind of remains to be seen. But I do think if they want to move in that direction, that would probably be a little bit more of an advantage for Plummer and for Austin Burton in this sense. But I think what Purdue has to do is they have to figure out who's the best option here, and then make sure that they're tailoring their offense to that player's strengths above all else. Nobody needs me to tell them that, obviously, but I think that's one of the most important elements of football, is that you play to what you have as opposed to playing to what you want, ideally. because you have to put your players in the best position you can to be successful, obviously. And every quarterback's a little bit different, and it's a matter of playing to their strengths. That's one thing I thought from an offensive perspective last year. Purdue might have tried to run the ball between the tackles a little bit more than their personnel was ideally suited for. More so in third and short, things like that, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and didn't always work the way Jeff Brom and company would have liked it. I think the offensive line, obviously, that was not the offensive line strengths. That being said, it's easy for me to say because Purdue had so many limitations offensively last season from a personnel perspective that the counter to that would be, well, what else would you do? And that would be a good question because being able to execute such things on a consistent basis wasn't always something that could be taken for granted. But it is going to be really interesting to see what happens here between Austin Burton, Aiden O'Connell, and Jack Plummer. Seem like you have 3 pretty solid options, but when you have 3 options, a lot of people would say you don't have one great one, and you'd obviously prefer to have one great one. As we've talked about in this video before, you probably have 1 year Rondell Moore and David Bell here, and you would really like to make sure you're maximizing that unique opportunity. And to do that, you need really good, really consistent quarterback play. And whoever the guy is, Purdue needs to deliver. If this is a situation where Purdue is going to play a couple of these guys, which Purdue obviously did in year 1 between David Blau and Elijah Sindelar, I wouldn't rule that out. I'm obviously speaking from pure speculation. The morning sun is very bright right now. It's apparently just coming up as opposed to going down. So I apologize for the glare, and that's probably my cue to wrap this up. So that's kind of a few thoughts on Purdue's upcoming quarterback competition here between Aiden O'Connell, Austin Burton, and Jack Plummer. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you again next week. This has been your GoldenBlack.com Daily Quarantine Simulcast for Friday, May 29th. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Once again, this has been brought to you by Falls Purdue Bookstores, Purdue Federal Credit Union, the 6th Street Dive Restaurant, First Source Bank, East End Grill, and the Charters Team Remax Ability Plus, in addition to the exploding sun behind me. Want to remind you once again, please keep in mind, for a hell of a dinner or to support our local businesses, East End Grill, 6th Street Dive, Arnie's, Bruno's, Triple X, and the Whitaker Inn. Thanks, everybody. I'm going to go rub my eyes out here.